the representation for opportunities for advancements continue to lag behind in the field of real estate for minorities, and I've got the numbers to prove it. According to my friends at the New York Times, only 6% of realtors in America are black today, even though 14% approximately of the population is black. It's also estimated that non-black real estate agents make approximately 3 times more money than their black counterparts doing the exact same job. Therefore, today I want to have a discussion on how we level the playing field for minorities in the field of real estate to ensure that equal opportunity for advancement isn't awarded to the privileged few. Therefore, my friends, let's all do us all a favor and be solution-oriented. Today's discussion is all about taking on this issue with eyes wide open. And for such a task, I want to enlist the expertise and insights of my friend Justin Ferguson, who has more than a decade of experience in the field of real estate, and currently he helps commercial real estate owners to maximize the return on their investments and make sure their money stretches as far as it can. He also has a great palate for wine as a sommelier, and he even took some time to tell me what brings him the most happiness in this regard. But the central focus for our discussion was how to close the racial disparity gap when it comes to black and minority real estate agents, investors, and homeowners and buyers at large. This was a wide-ranging and diverse conversation about real estate, its future, and the role of minorities. So without further delay, I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Fabulous. Well, Justin, if you're ready, my friend, I'll welcome you to the program. And I'm super excited to learn about your journey in real estate, my friend. Great to see you this morning. And happy Wednesday to you.
Yes. Good morning and happy Wednesday.
Yeah, and just before we dive into your real estate experience, buddy, as you know, we're coming up to the end of the year, and I'm a big believer in self-reflection, my friend. So as you reflect on the year, how do you measure accomplishment for yourself? And what's your proudest moment of the year, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, my proudest moment this year was the birth of my second child. So January 28th, we had a little girl. So that was the proudest and the exciting moment here. So I'm happy to, she's going to be a year soon, which is crazy how fast all this goes. So that's probably the proudest personal moment. And then professionally, it's been just staying and surviving. It's been a tough real estate year for a lot of people. So we're still closing deals, still staying disciplined. So it's been great to measure my metrics and just show the consistent growth, because it's hard to see that. It's hard to see that unless you're measuring it. So I'm very mindful about that. And yeah, I think it's just staying in this business has been a real feat the last few years.
It requires certain level of resilience, doesn't it?
Yes, sir, it does.
Your day job has you as a multifamily specialist at Marcus and Millichap's Southern Virginia office. As an investment sales associate, you exclusively represent sellers and buyers of investment properties. I'm wondering if you can tell me about your work and how it evolved over time.
Yeah, so I transform properties into communities and opportunities. My work isn't just about closing deals, it's about, changing lives. I think as investors, as buyers, as sellers, as renters, when I help a seller maximize their exit or on a sale or help them guide an investor really to financial freedom. A lot of people are looking for ways, especially in the last few years with cost of living rising significantly. People are looking for other ways of making and generating income, legally and ethically, of course, here, and helping buyers do that as well. I'm seeing kind of the ripple effects that have impact on families and communities and legacies. It's not just about the real estate. Um, it's about the futures, and I take that kind of responsibility seriously as I help people.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up the concept of financial freedom. So, Jessica, I'm curious, how do you think we're redefining the whole concept of financial freedom in the commercial real estate space? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, financial freedom in my description is living a life by design versus necessity, right? So having the money to go and do what you want to do when you want to do it instead of having to cut corners or continuously pinching pennies. And I think, the key word is freedom. And people define success and wealth very different ways. And for some people, that's billions and millions, and some for that's, a few extra thousand, right? But more importantly, understanding what is it you want to do and how much does that lifestyle cost or that activity? And then are you have the ability or the freedom to do that? So I want to help, sellers do that with their properties, right? I want to help buyers who may have a full-time job or have other properties increase the income for their families and their net worth to let they have more freedom. And that's kind of how I would define, financial freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. And my friend, I know a big part of the way you operate is creating sustainable personal and professional relationships to really help your investors maximize the return on investment. So, talk to me about creating professional relationships because I know it's really at the heartbeat of what you do, my friend.
Yes, relations. So this business, real estate, and I think a lot of the world and most businesses is about relationships, right? And when you go into commercial real estate and you go up the ranks in size and quality, there's fewer and fewer people who have the means to purchase that kind of real estate. So that also means that that owner has fewer options to pick from, and there's also fewer buyers. So the buyer pool is not nearly as vast the larger you go up. So at that point, it comes, who do we think that people want to work with more? And is that Justin or is that Kevin, right? Justin and Kevin are both great agents. They know the same buyers. They're both doing deals. But do I want to work with Justin or Kevin? So what relationships have we formed to do that? And I am a sommelier, and wine has been a good connector because during COVID, when everyone thought the world was going to fall apart, I still had to reach out to owners. And I don't believe in fear mongering. I believe in data and structure. And it was a time of unknown, right? It was always the crystal ball analogy. We have no idea what's coming. We can plan and be prepared. But how do you reach out to people who are concerned and not talk about real estate? Because no one really wanted to do anything. And wine became a way of just saying, hey, let's just connect and drink some wine, talk about life. Let's do our social distancing 6 feet away, right? And just connect as humans and talk about other things. So wine was a good way to do that. And it's still a great way to do that now. I mean, most of my meetings, I don't talk about real estate. It's, what's happening and understanding what a client is looking to achieve personally and financially. And then we talk about how real estate can get them to the next step.
Yeah, absolutely. And my friend, you bring up an interesting point. All too often, no matter what branch of sales that you're in, a lot of people go in directly for the sale without learning how they can bring a maximum value. So I'm wondering if you can talk about, just for a second, about the importance of soft selling and really getting to know what makes your clients tick, because then you can serve them better. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. So the idea is I define value as with sales. I would say if you're not, if a, and in commercial real estate, it doesn't make sense for everyone to sell. You buy a deal in my sector, what single family home investor, something I don't do much. You can get in and get out and invest and flip a home much faster than you can an apartment complex. So these owners are holding deals between 3, 5, 7 years. And the idea of value is I know that this client and this person cannot do anything for 5 years, for example. So how do I talk to this person and provide value to them every interaction so that the conversation isn't, are you ready to sell? Are you ready to sell? How's your property doing? You ready to sell? It's more along the lines of, how how is your property renting, right? Would you like some rent comparables to know what the market can achieve? Or how is your insurance? We see insurance is rising. We have a few neighbors and connections with insurance who could give you possibly a better quote. Maintenance, right? The cost of labor and goods is going up. Do you need contractor recommendations, right? It's what are parts of the cycle that a client needs that I can provide access or help with that can improve their life and improve their property. And that's what I like to do is value. Most of the conversations for owners aren't about selling. It's just that how can I provide value? Because if I don't call them, then someone else will, and then they forget about Justin. So, at the same time, it has to be like honest and reasonable how you reach out to people and understand what they want to do and how you help them get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as an agent, I know for you, the ultimate end goal is to give your clients more control over their investments to achieve their outcomes, my friend. So how do you give clients both autonomy and the empowerment of their own deal while also providing them advice that can help them along the way? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Your question is how do I give investors
My
empowerment?
my question is, how do you give investors the confidence that they can control their own deals while also providing them with sound advice along the way? How do you balance the two, my friend?
The balance is data. Data is the focal point that moves the commercial real estate scene. It is how can you take the data and how can you analyze it and how can you interpret so that it relates to people. We're in an era where everyone on their phone has a strong computer that can get all the same data at the same time, but it's the interpretation of that data where people go wrong. And also there's another level to real estate, which is the connections that we've made through relationships. And we can read online and say, this property down the street sold for this price. So I should be able to get that same price for mine. But having known these owners and making calls and building those relationships, I can share that maybe that owner had something happen or their property was a little bit nicer than yours, or something happened with financing that made the deal better. The idea is let's have data-driven conversations first, and then slowly back into things that are more nuanced about your property. And the balance is using my experience and my opinions Second, to suggest that here's what's happening and here's how you can improve the value or give your residents a better living experience. Here's are things that work for you from what I've seen. And the data also backs that as well.
Yeah, and in terms of trend setting in the market, Justin, I'm also curious to ask you about the importance of looking at trends that are happening both in the market and society-wise as well, in terms of inflation, whether people are buying or selling at a particular time of year. So tell me about the importance of looking at trends and also how that can affect sort of the environment around commercial real estate. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, again, trends go with the data, right? So it's important to understand where your property is now, but it's also important to understand and forecast where it's going. The people who have made the most wealth in history have been able to see where things are going and getting ahead of that. Think Amazon, right? Jeff Bezos knew that the idea of e-commerce is going to be major, and he lost money. He was very grassroots for many years, and then it took off, and then now he's one of the wealthiest people in the world. So that factor still applies with commercial real estate. Do we think that the submarket that your property is in is going to get more jobs or more demand or any more attractions that would bring people to the area? And does that create more supplies? How many units are coming to your market? Does more supply compete with your property? And does that mean that rents are going to go down if there's compression, or is there not enough supply where rents will go up? And the idea is you have to analyze a deal where it's at, but if you want to make money and you want to have a great return for you and your family and your investors, the forecasting is a large part. And you mentioned cost of goods, right? With inflation skyrocketing, insurance costs of skyrocketing, taxes are going up. You have to plan for that as well. You have to plan that. Traditionally, we would underwrite inflation to 3%, but now inflation, it was closer to 10 to 15%, and labor costs. So when you're underwriting your deal saying, I want to make $100 when I buy it, but by year 2 or 3, I want to make $500. It's really important to know what factors you need to adjust for if you want to hit those margins.
Yeah, and Justin, we began our conversation by talking about the resilience of sort of this market and staying in it for the long haul if you're an agent or an investor. So I'm also curious to ask you if there's a standard roadmap or set of questions that investors or agents can ask themselves before entering a deal, because not every investment is a great investment. So I'm wondering, what are some foundational questions that real estate investors or agents should be asking themselves before they agree to enter into any deal? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Yeah, so poor investments don't happen by accident. They happen by ignoring the warning signs. Investors need to ask, is this property aligned with my goals? Do I fully understand the risks? What's my exit strategy? And most importantly, like, don't fall in love with the property. Don't love the numbers. Numbers don't lie, but emotions do, as I like to say. And the exit strategy is also important, right? If you buy something and you want to make a large amount of money, is that reasonable, right? Do you have the team in place to execute on this goal? My market in Virginia, we have a lot of value add, and value add is described as whether you're increasing rents through renovations or reducing expenses or improving operations at a manager level. That's how value add. But if you want to improve rents, or is your property nice enough to get higher rents? Or if you want to reduce expenses, do you have the skilled labor needed to do this work at a high quality that people aren't coming back and you're losing money for redoing work or poor work? Is your property manager good enough to do the work and get it done for you? So a lot of these questions, people don't look far enough ahead. As you were talking about trends, they don't look far enough ahead to say, do I have the actual team in place to do this? And there's a phrase in the business, is like, you make the money when you buy the deal. So buying it right, being disciplined, doing due diligence, understanding where the property currently is as you buy it, is just as important, if not the most important part of the entire real estate process.
Yeah, absolutely. And my friend, I know one of the hallmarks of what you help clients do is help grow their portfolio at a faster and more efficient rate, my friend. So what's the key to doing that in today's modern real estate environment from a commercial perspective? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so speed and efficiency come from one thing: leverage. Not just financial leverage, but relationship leverage, market leverage, and time leverage. It's about finding, maybe off market deals, or using creative financing, and building a network of trusted experts. I think if you're not scaling smarter, you're just adding more weight. And I help my clients scale like they mean it. And the idea is, what is the minimum effective dose for this community, this apartment? How do we go from A to B efficiently and quickly? Who do we know that can help us get there? What can we do that we know are in the highest return? We know that, increasing rent ethically is going to require some investment. The property needs to look better. It needs to perform better. The amenities need to be better. So as long as we're not cutting corners and we care about that, then we know that if we need to increase the rent to make more money, then we need to upgrade the appliances, or we need to make sure the cabinets are new, or the flooring is level and quality. So these are the ideas. Who do we know? How can we leverage what we've worked to, and other companies, and friends, and lenders, so that we can scale faster? But it all starts with leverage.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Justin, we originally connected because we saw some synergy in the lack of racial minorities in the field of real estate, my friend. So that's my next question. According to the National Commercial Real Estate Development Association, they say that racial minorities are underrepresented in the field. My friend. Overall, they say that 12% of realtors who work in commercial real estate are either white or non-white, compared to only 3% of non-white counterparts, my friend. And our friends over at the National Real Estate Association tell me that only 6% of their total membership is black, my friend. So tell me, how do you think we can increase racial minorities in the field of real estate overall? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. So the numbers are shocking, but not surprising. Commercial real estate has been a gate-kept industry for far too long. And I think the only way to actually change it is to kick the door wide open. Mentorship, funding, and real actionable opportunities for minorities. Representation isn't just a feel-good method. It's needed for necessity and progress and innovation. I think there's not enough people that look like us in the business. So when you don't see enough people that look like you in a sector, it's more intimidating to get into the sector. So I think if we're more visible, part of the reason why I'm, trying to share my knowledge with as many platforms and people, is saying like, hey, we can do well in this industry. We can show up, we can perform, and then more people are going to want to get into it. A big barrier to entry with commercial real estate is, as an investor, is funding. Right, our communities have not been educated well enough on spending and financial knowledge to buy real estate. But as a realtor and real estate agent, we always tell new agents, expect not to get paid for 18 to 24 months. And that is a long time for someone to hear no every day and not see reward and payment. So there's big issues with getting into the game and maintaining it. But I'm hoping that I can spark some interest for new young minority investors and realtors.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And when we talk about individuals with disabilities, whether it be breaking them into the real estate investment space or having developers design and reimagine spaces for folks with disabilities to be more included. How do you think we can break down that barrier to entry for individuals with disabilities?
Yeah, I mean it's simple. Like stop designing spaces for some people and start designing spaces for all people. Accessibility isn't an add-on; it should be standard. I think that whether it's physical spaces or sensory-friendly environments, like every design decision has the power to either include or exclude. Real estate shouldn't be about bringing people together, or should be about bringing people together, not leaving people out. I went to school for architecture, and I always remember when I was designing projects, and I wanted to have some grand staircase, for example, or this big money shot staircase that we love in these sensational buildings. But I had, professors that said, well, how does a person with a wheelchair see that view? How do they experience the building to the same level and quality as everyone else? And when you have that mindset, when you're designing buildings, the easy option is hey, put a ramp somewhere, right? And ramp specifically for people with wheelchairs is an extra second thought. But how do you design a space to where everybody can experience all the views and excitement at the same level? So it just takes more time up front, but it always pays off in the end.
Yeah, and I'm wondering your thoughts also, Justin, when we look at these findings, my friend, from the New York Times. They found that folks that are in the industry who are black or other minorities make 3 times less than their white counterparts for doing the same job, my friend. So I'm curious to ask you, how do you think we can close the wage gap for black real estate agents in real estate? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Yeah, I mean the earning gap is slightly narrowing. It's progress, but like let's not pop the champagne just yet, right? It's closing the gap at the top 1% is great. Excuse me. Excuse me. Closing the gap at the top is great, but what about the people trying to break into the industry? Like that's the hardest part of commercial real estate is getting in. We need to level the playing field for everyone day one. I mean, the goal isn't just be better for some; it's better access and opportunity for all. And I think it's important for us to realize that we need more people in here who bring diversity and also experiences and backgrounds, and that's how everyone can do well. I'm a big believer in the quote, a rising tide lifts all boats, and that's true in every industry. But I think a lot of people think that it's just about them and other people can't win as well, when we all can win in many industries.
Yeah, and just I'm curious to ask you about your greatest hope or aspiration for the future of commercial real estate when it comes to minority investors or buyers, my friend, or agents for that matter. What's your greatest hope for the future as we look to diversify the industry, my friend?
Hmm. My hope is that minorities don't just enter commercial real estate; they dominate it. I want to see black developers leading billion-dollar projects, minority-owned firms selling and setting the standard in many submarkets and markets here. Diverse voices at every table is important. We're not just asking for a seat anymore. We're building our own tables these days, and I'm hoping that more people get off the sidelines through knowledge and wealth creation methods to get into commercial real estate, because I think a lot of this business is there's not many people that look like us, so we're not calling people that look like us either. So the more we can get into it, we can have more conversations with other minorities who are going through their struggles and experiences. But my hope is that more people in our cultures can show up and do well and just as well as everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I asked you earlier about the questions that real estate investors or agents should ask before entering any deal. And I wanted to flip that question to ask you about if I put you in a room of 100 first-time investors or agents, and I told you that your responsibility is to answer any questions that they may have about the industry and any questions that they should be asking themselves before entering this industry. What do you think you would tell the group of investors and agents, my friend?
Yeah, for investors trying to get into this industry or understand that they should, you have to ask yourself, do I have the grit to handle rejection every day, several times a day? Do I have the patience to build relationships that may not pay off for years? This is a very much a delayed gratification business. Do I have the vision to see opportunities where others see obstacles? If the answer is yes to those questions, then this field can reward you if you're additionally disciplined. This business is about X's and O's, blocking and tackling, to use a sports metaphor. It's not about scoring touchdowns every day. The idea is about getting first downs. And the team that gets the most first downs in a football game, for example, they usually win. The idea is if you can do measurable improvements every single day while hearing no's and rejections and cancellations and all the bad things that come with this business and sales in general, you will be fine if you can clear out the dust. A lot of people take this business personally. People aren't rejecting you, the person. They just don't understand you. They don't know what you want. So you have to figure out ways to understand and get people to understand you as well and show that you come here in peace and just want to add value to their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And Justin, you've brought up the idea of discipline a couple of times during our conversation this morning. So I'm curious to ask you, what do you think it means to have real estate discipline, my friend?
Real estate discipline in our business is doing the work, the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the outcome is generated by 20% of the work here. I think that 20% of the work in our business is prospecting. Prospecting is reaching out directly to owners, getting in front of them, understanding their goals, providing value so that when they think about buying or selling or refinancing or property management, anything revolving real estate, they think about you. So the discipline is, how many phone calls can you make and hear no? How many times can people hang up on you, or how many secretaries are going to hang up on you? How many emails do you have to send? Because I think a lot of people overthink a lot of industries, but I know that the more people I reach out to, just numbers, the better I will get in front of more people. And because this industry is still an old male dominated industry with relationships, people don't just want to talk on Zoom all the time or phone calls. They want to meet you, shake your hand, see you in person, understand you as a person. So that takes time as well. So you're reaching out, being disciplined. Our first years in the business for new agents, we have to make 250 calls a week. So that is a substantial amount of cold calling. And imagine making 250 calls a week for a year before your first deal closes, right? That's a lot of demand. That's a lot of activity. And it's hard to see progress if you're not tracking, say, this week I spoke with these number of people. This week I met with these number of people, and you will see a positive trend if you keep doing it. But again, all of that is discipline and looking to get step-by-step action and first downs instead of touchdowns every play.
Yeah, and just I want to end on two sort of fun questions. The Wall Street Journal reported this less than a third of Americans are bringing a plus one to holiday parties, my friend. So on your end of the spectrum, my friend, how do you look at etiquette when it comes to bringing someone to a holiday work party, my friend? What are your thoughts on those findings, my friend? And do you think it's appropriate to bring a plus one to an office holiday party, my friend?
Yeah, do I think it's appropriate? I think whoever's set the whoever's organizing the party needs to make that decision up front, whether it's just office or plus one. Now, if it's out there in the open, I think it's about having a good conversation with everyone. I think a lot of people get into trouble sometimes when, they may not be forward. The phrase you may have heard, or work wife or work husband is a thing that gets thrown around. I said, well, as long as you're doing what you should be doing, not blurring any professional boundaries, then your plus one should be fine, right? And have fun. They're going to meet your coworkers and your bosses. And I think a lot of people, get trouble when those lines get blurred between professional and personal.
Yeah, absolutely. And my friend, I'm going to sneak one real estate question in before I ask my last question. I'm also curious to ask you, what do you think it means to be a forward thinker as a real estate investor or an agent, my friend? What does that term forward thinker mean to you?
Yeah, forward thinking real estate investment is somewhat trends, seeing where things are going to be, right? If you buy a deal now, you have to know what's happening in your area. You have to know what your politicians are likely to vote for, what your governor is likely to approve. There's a lot of things that factor into making true wealth at short term and long term. So with forward thinking, the idea is what's happening in this area. Is there going to be a new sports team coming to town? Or is the city talking about using empty space to bring in a new development for venues? Or what are other opportunities that my city can have that I can see in the future that make my property a better investment? For example, in Virginia Beach, Pharrell Williams, the musician, is creating a massive surf park, hundreds of millions of dollars. And if you're an investor who said, I want to buy a deal over here because I think this is going to happen, when this gets done, your property value is going to quadruple. And understanding what's happening, being forward thinking about where things are going is how you make money. It's important to acknowledge where things are at, but if you're not forward thinking, you're not going to get to the next step because there's too many variables in this business, and you want to try your best to isolate those and move forward.
Yeah, and Joseph, my last question is about becoming a girl dad. My friend, you recently told me that you became a girl dad, and I'm sure your daughter has you wrapped around her finger already. So I'm curious to ask you, what's the best part about being a girl dad, and how do you want your personal and professional legacy to be defined, my friend?
Yeah, being a girl dad is great. I have a 5-year-old boy already, and it's great. There's a lot of great things about being a father to a son, interest and activities. Being a girl dad is also, it's different vibes, but there's a new level of emotions and connections that you have with a daughter versus your son, right? You try your best to teach your kids the same, but they're just different. And I think a girl dad is great. Looking forward to whatever she wants to do when she grows up. Our family is all about equality. She can date who she wants to. She can do sports, or she can do dance, or she can do all of them. And I want to empower her to do what she wants and feel confident. We try and remove the restrictions based on society. I want her to feel empowered to do whatever she wants to do as she grows up. And that's kind of the father I want to be and be looked back on. Now, professional, I think I want my legacy to be more than just deals and dollars. I want to be remembered as the person who changed the game. I'm here to make an impact. He brought diversity, innovation, and hopefully opportunity to other people in real estate, whether it's mentoring the next generation, breaking barriers, building communities. You know, I want my legacy to be about impact and help and change.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And finally, tell me if people want to get connected with you, Justin, what's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, people can connect with me on LinkedIn, Justin and Ferguson on LinkedIn, and my website is www.justin-ferguson.com. Those are the best ways to connect with me, learn more about me. You know, that's the easiest way. And again, Kevin, thank you for giving me your time and a platform, and it was great speaking with you. And I hope your viewers find value in our conversation.
Absolutely, my friend. I want to thank you for engaging in conversation and bringing a voice to minority real estate. My friend, you're doing great work, and it was a privilege to engage in conversation with you this morning. And I want to thank you for being here.
Great, Kevin. This has been great, a pleasure. And, you know, this won't be your last conversation.